All right. Well, until somebody else actually comes in here and makes noise, I can only assume that I'm being heard. The way I got my mixer set up, it's a little tough to know for sure unless I view this on YouTube. I want to make sure I got my link right. There we go. It's working. All right. Hey, how's it going? It's Identity Crisis Design. I've only ever participated in chats and super chats with friends from Comicsgate. I've only been getting to know them virtually while I'm at work most of the time. And it's strange. The stranglehold this whole movement has, I'll turn that off, this movement has had. Um, the so I was listening to some streams tonight, and normally I would actually have Shane Davis. He's doing his stream right now. Incidentally, since we're all about helping each other, I'm gonna put this in case anybody comes in. I'm gonna put this link in for Starlight Cats. I want to keep some windows open. Doing this for the first time by myself. I tried this a couple of times with my brother, and it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't the right fit. So I'm still trying to figure out exactly what it is that I'm trying to say, and in how this stream might fit in with all of the others. And I do believe that there's something unique to offer. And it's this. It has to do with what I've been doing with myself as an artist and what I want to do. I plan on making some big changes. I'm going to put this in here. Go back Starlight Cats for anybody that actually comes in to see this. I know it's late. It's like 2:15. Now, I usually get out of work at around 1:30 and then come home unless there's some stuff to do right across the street. So a little bit about me. I am an artist. I've been drawing since the time I was a kid. My sister introduced me to comic books, and I believe the first few that I had in my possession were there was a I know I'd be able to find this if I looked it up online. I don't know if I'll be able to do that and talk at the same time. It might cause me to go off in a tangent, which is something that is it's very possible. It's something I don't like to do when I talk, but fair warning. Hashtag tangents ahead, which is, if you're following this from that tweet, that's why I put that in there. So it goes like this. I got into comic books mostly because my older sister had handed me some. There were some Legion of Superheroes, some and one Daredevil, and I want to say it was Daredevil 136 or 163. It was Daredevil fighting Bullseye in a circus. And the one thing about that book that I remember that I dug so much was the art was great. I'm going to try to find this while I talk. It was the way that the artist portrayed Daredevil's acrobatics, and I was just amazed by that. All right, I'm gonna go just trying to find it. I'll put it in big top and see what that does. And 132. Battle Beneath the Big Top. That's what it was. Okay. And I'm not, geez, it's on eBay. Let's see if that's an old. Yeah, that ended in August. Anyways, I'm getting back into the comics, and there's a reason why I've been away for a long time, and I'm not going to try to claim that I know that which I don't. I think it's vital that people are honest with themselves about what they know, and especially about what they don't know. I've been following Shane Davis. I've been following EVS. I think the first couple of videos that really hooked me were Comics Matter, back when it was Diversity in Comics. I just think that your boy Zach is just naturally funny, and very informative, and that has something to do with where I want this channel to go, which is I'm going to be I even thought of a name for it, and I'm going to call it Comic Artist Evolution. I'm not sure if I'm going to be like creating another channel for that. Right now I have a YouTube channel for my my side business, which is Identity Crisis Design. If you go to idcrisisdesign.com, I'll put that in the chat too. But idcrisisdesign.com, you can see my work, and what I do is custom paint. So I'll talk just a little bit about that, and what custom paint is airbrush, pinstripe, gold leaf, any of the fancy designs, the high-end illustration that you might see on a motorcycle or a car hood. A lot of lowriders are chock full of custom paint, and with many different disciplines involved in one. In fact, if you want to see all the different excuse me, if you want to see all the different disciplines that are involved in custom paint wrapped up into one paint job, you go look at a lowrider with a heavy flake, pinstripe, gold leaf. I'll pull up an image here. I want to get used to, this being the first stream. I want to get used to and this is all part of it, to being able to find stuff online and pulling it up so I can like share a screen and not lose my train of thought, which is going to be a challenge. I'm just saying, know your limitations. Let's see if I can find one that's got everything to it. And again, this is just a way of find some large ones. I'll tell you one thing that nice thing I like about lowrider imagery is that there are some very, very hot mamacitas, all sizes, large. Find something really nice. I mean, you can find some just regular clean lowrider paint jobs, but if you want to find something that is the culmination of all lowrider, okay, so I'm going to try sharing a screen. This isn't super typical because there's a theme to it. Click into this window, Brave tab, lowrider images. Okay, and see if I can maximize this. Okay, I'm going to have to go back to this screen. All right, that's bigger. And you can see, I mean, there's just a ton of work on here. Now, one of my problems with the industry, and that's not even so much the problem with the industry, is the problem with my place in it. And excuse me, my the ability for me to market myself and find time to do a job as elaborate as this. Hey, like I said, I just got out of work. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. At any rate, let's get back to here. Okay. I'm sure you people are familiar And what do I mean by you people? I mean, like you people who are going to be listening to this in the present or in the future. Anyways, they're elaborate. They take a long time, and I've been doing bikes and pinstripe art for years, since 2000. I've been drawing since I was a kid. I always wanted to do comic books. It was a little bit hard to do that in the household that I grew up in now. And as much as I want this to be an intro stream, I want to introduce myself to those people out there who I've spent money on, and there's only so much that you can learn about somebody while you're, reading a text or having a minute or two of invite into a stream. And to that end, thank you very much, Sweetcast. Thank you very much, Wayncast, for the one or two times that I've managed to find myself in front of my phone at lunch or in front of this computer. It's very generous of you. And basically, I'm getting back into comics now for a few reasons, because I've always wanted to do it. My art career took a custom paint path. I think part of the reason why was because I found that doing something like comic books had challenges that didn't necessarily suit the way that my brain works. Being able to compose a page, understanding composition and color. Technically, I can draw, I can paint, and I'll use this last project. I'll share the screen and just use this last project that I just finished as a little story I can tell, and tell you what goes into a job like this and why I'm trying to get away from it. Okay, so what we've got here is, I'm going to pull this over here so it's just the pic. All right, what we've got here. This is a piece of paintwork that came in. This customer, these parts had been sitting around someone else's shop for a while, and he came into my shop. This is my old shop, actually. I was renting off of a friend and one of my oldest customers, and somebody that as an entrepreneur I looked up to because he's successful, and I was hoping to. Hoping to learn something from him. But this customer brought me these parts, and he wanted to have them redone. And this artwork it's not terrible. There was a lot left, but he took this out of this person's shop because it wasn't being worked on, and that's unfortunate. Sometimes that happens. He wanted a jester theme to this. And so this is my a sketch of, he wanted a pile of faces all over. And this is a sketch that I did so that I could show him, what I was thinking, capable of. And he wanted a girl on the side of the tank. And this is one of the images that I came up with to lay that out. And these are some earlier concept sketches, sitting down in front of the, trying to figure out, originally he wanted this pinup girl on the back fender huge, which was my idea because, the bigger that you paint something, the easier it is. Toyed around with the idea of maybe, because originally, again, things change. Originally, he wanted to have this name here, which says the Jester on the side of the tank. Do something with the diamond suit, not have it look like a Harley Quinn, although it, she would be referenced. Sexy Jester. When you put in sexy Jester, a lot of Halloween costumes come up. And we wanted to have something that was a little bit more like a stripper. And more, I want to say like classy / slutty, but imaginative. And some of the stuff just it takes a while to think of something, and then you have to bounce it off the customer and see what they say, and try not to make too much work for yourself based on the original quote. And this is some, just some other ideas. I thought maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to incorporate some kind of like his version of Insane Clown Posse Hatchet Man logo. And then this is, more of the same, more of the same stuff. Should the girl look like this across the tank? And I can see, like, here, I liked this pose. She might take up too much room, as the shape of a tank gets skinnier down at one end, and I didn't want to have these legs wrapping up around the thin parts. So composing the side of a gas tank, you're limited by how things are curved and rounded. And then he changed his mind and decided that he wanted a big jester on the back of the tank. I'm sorry, he wanted a big jester on the back fender. Originally we were going to go with, big pinup girl on the back. I was trying to make less work for myself. I wanted to have a title on the side of the tank, and he decided he wanted to have a girl on the side of the tank, both sides. And I'm like, that's a lot more painting, and have a jester on the rear fender. So I started just toying around with some figures and, looking up pictures of, court jesters. I thought maybe you would work with a porcelain face. But then I just started documenting, for myself and, for the future. I ended up writing an article about this in a local motorcycle magazine. Like it's a free, move these out of here before I end up knocking them over. I'm going to knock them over. I'll just put them down here. Sorry. Okay. But this is all stripping off the old paint, which you do because I don't know if the person who painted this before me knew what they were doing. And there's a lot of things to consider. Taking the paint off and working it from the very bottom up, priming it, sanding it, putting the sealer down, putting the base coat down. Then this is, mixed off of a rack. This is a Barracuda green. Like, these colors, they have recipes. There's a ton to know. And, taping out what the diamonds were going to look like. And then having the customer change their mind and want to put in a single row of diamonds because he thought it might look too busy. And I only took this picture just to cover my butt because, now that I'm changing the pattern, I'm affecting the paint. And there's these scratch marks on there that I'm going to have to sand out and repaint. And right here, single row of diamonds, single row of diamonds. I get an approval. I lay them down, clear coat them. Okay. And that's got it. This is all the same stuff that's on your car, the same kind of paint. It's got solvents in it. It's, you have to put on a clean paint suit, a respirator, blow all the dust off of yourself so that it comes in clean. Now this here goes back to that first drawing where he wanted these jester heads put on. And the whole bike is this green candy, and I put lacquer thinner in the other airbrush to use as an eraser. So you put some paint down and then you erase it. Here's the front fender. There's some gold leaf. And this is basically, I'm done with the front fender and I'm showing them where we're at. And there it is, cleared, done. This is 24 karat gold on these bells. Okay, and I don't want to go on and on about this one project, but this is the last one that I did, and it was very complicated. This whole jester woman was cut out on the vinyl cutter so that I could, see all these parts, that I could pick them off, paint, put them back on again, and then do her flesh. And the detail on her face, very small, very frustrating. Now I can say this about this project. You can see how big it is right there. That's my index finger, dirty fingernails and all. Okay, just to give you an idea. And then I wanted to give her 2 different colors eyes, but then I decided against that. So in the end, yeah, okay. So in the end, this is actually, it's one of my favorite projects. The customer was very accommodating. I ended up moving out of the shop where he came in. When I got this project, I was in one shop. When I finished the project, I was in a different place because it got too expensive very quickly and without any notice. So I was financially, I was like forced to leave. I was working full time and working at this shop, and I was actually planning to quit. A perfectly good job, which I'm still at, and do this full time. And then the rug basically got pulled out from under me, so I brought half of it home, and I brought half of it over to this other place that I was renting out before, which doesn't really have. It's not a. It's a good location as far as convenience from my house, but it's not a good location as far as being able to see it from the street. These are different treatments for, doing the lettering, but this is basically how I figured I would lay this down. And this is just a picture of what it looks like hanging up with the clear and the clear that I used and the gun that I used. But then this is the final product. You can see what happens when the sun hits this candy green. I'm going to shut this sound off. When the sun hits this candy green, it's actually lighter than when you see it in the dark, because candy acts like a stained glass window. The sun goes through it, reflects the pearls and the effects on the paint underneath it, and then comes back. So it changes the color of anything that's on top of, like a Jolly Rancher candy. And there's the tank. Very, very happy with this. And this is where, my drawing skills only come into play almost never. I can say out of the entire time that I've been doing, this is one of the maybe one of the few projects where I could sit down with an airbrush and treat it like it was a sketchbook, and just sit down and draw. The lettering was hand painted using pinstriping urethanes. This is one of those projects that is the culmination of everything that I've ever learned in custom paint: how to strip the paint down, how to prime it, how to base it, how to do the gold leaf and the clear coat, and then sand and polish all of it, working with a vinyl cutter. Every effect, not every effect, but a good deal of them. This one project played to every single one of my strengths. Now, this is basically just, I took these pictures so that I could throw them down in a video. And I can find the link to that and put that in the chat as well. But yeah, this Joker face was inspired by a lot of the stuff that I'd seen in the 90s in comic books. I think the Max had a face like that, or it was all eyes, all mouth and teeth, no nose, into my logo. And this is, images I took for the magazine article, polishing it, sanding it down, polishing it. And then was this not the video? Yeah, pictures outside. Now this day was overcast. You can see the other day was kind of sunny, and all the faces look lighter. This is a little bit overcast. You can see how the paint, it looks a little bit darker. But this was a very good customer. He was very, very accommodating, because it took a lot longer to get this done than I wanted, because of the situation that I was put in with having to move out of my shop and move it back into my garage, and then into the space, into this space here. This is not my house. This is the shop. front fender. Very happy with the way it came out. Now, I'm saying all that, and I know I spent a lot of time on it, but I'm saying all that to say this basically. What are we looking at here? Yeah, another travelogue here, just going up the fender. I have been thinking for a long time about getting away from this industry. And it's not even because it has nothing to do with the it has nothing to do with the customer base personally. In other words, it doesn't have anything to do with what the customer base wants from me, but it is it's got some overhead to it. The investment in the equipment into this industry, one airbrush, if it's going to be one of the best ones you could possibly get by a big company, is going to be $400. I've managed to find comparable tools for two. In fact, I kind of consider it to be, I take pride in the amount of frugility that I have in being able to find good tools at a good price. Let's see. As long as we're sharing, this was done years ago for one of the through one of my earliest customers. Why am I not able to? Okay. Now early on, excuse me, early on when I was doing this work, all I knew how to do was airbrush, and at first I was doing T-shirts at in the malls around Pittsburgh. Here's some. I don't know if you can see this. There's flake in this outline stripe. That's not even something I knew I would be able to do. And I would have to rely on other people's knowledge and other people's work ethic and other body shops in order to get the primers and the finishes. All of this stuff that I showed you in this previous bike with the green Jester. All of this stuff right here. All of this stuff. All the painting, even right to the right to the base coat and the primer. I would get everything to. I'm sorry. I'm going to navigate this. I'll figure this out. I would get everything right to this point. It would be given to me. I would do the artwork, and then I would give it back, and they would put the clear coat on it and do all this stuff, the sanding and the polishing. And it was through my friends at Roll on Cycle that I was able to get a lot of these jobs. And then also, everybody's into clowns and jesters. I might as well show you more of them since we're on that subject. There was one guy that was recommended to me to do all of my clear coats. I was like, great. And I would drive about an hour to get to this guy's place because I just knew, I just trusted these people's opinion, and I took it to this guy, and he did a great job. Everybody was happy, but I still didn't know the difference between a good finish and a bad finish. Anybody who's, just to give you an idea, you go out to your car and look at the way the light reflects off of it, and you'll see what we in the business refer to as orange peel or a factory finish. And that is the clear coat gets laid on the car and there's a texture to it. A show finish, which is what you were almost always trying to achieve in custom paint, is when that gets sanded down and then polished so that it looks like glass, a glass factory finish. And other people were doing that for me. And then the guy that was doing my clear coat moved away. So I had to find somebody else to do it. I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. And I went and had some mixed results from different places until one job that I was working on that at the time, this is years ago, but at the time was the highest. It was the one paint job I was doing that I was getting paid the most for. And the clear coat that I got back was so bad that it actually cost me money to have fixed. And it was like right then and there. I was like, no, I'm going to learn how to do this stuff myself. Kind of like I would teach my daughter to change her oil and do her brakes. So at the very least, if she ever took the car into some place to get fixed, she wouldn't have that air about her that she didn't know what was going on with the car. So I've been doing this for a long time, and it's been a lot of fun. And I don't think that I'll quit outright, but there, we'll show you this one. But there is I still don't feel like it's where I want to be right now. For a couple of different reasons. It takes a long time. It's expensive to do, and in this particular region, and again, it could have a lot to do with me and the way that I market myself. And I'm not saying that I'm the most effective marketer at all. Okay. Anybody that wants to see more of this stuff, they can go to the website. I'm just going to pull this down here. Stop screen. All right. It's expensive to do. You need booths, so that dirt doesn't get into it. There are chemicals that can be unhealthy if you breathe them in or get them on your hands. It's messy. There's a lot of sanding. There's a lot of wet sanding, and there's sanding slurry. I have an appreciation for the craft, and I have nothing but respect for the people around me who know how to do it. But for a few reasons, and not just the expense, but you're only ever making money off of the project one time. Any real money off of it. Now, I'm actually doing some paint repair on a bike that I did years ago, in 2000, and from 13 to 14, I was working on this bike, and it was the first paint job that I ever did from the bottom up, and I considered it to be a real accomplishment. And these paint jobs are outside. And they get a beating. They get road wear. Sometimes they fall over. I remember my first customer. I think I painted the helicopter on the side of his tank 2 or 3 times because it kept falling over. It was a Vietnam War scene, and I kept having to paint the same helicopter over and over again. It's funny, whenever I told him it was going to cost a lot more to have it fixed, he stopped dumping his bike over. That was a big lesson. But you can only make the money off of it once. And after that, the only time that you make money off of it again is if you have to fix it. You can't, like in comics, print one book and sell it over and over again. It's expensive. It's dirty. You can't resell it. And you're not saying anything. None of the bikes that I've ever painted for anyone was ever my ideas. Now, my ideas may be incorporated into them, but it's never my theme. It's never my original idea. So I'm not saying anything. I'm translating for somebody else. We need food, shelter, clothing, and water, and love, and people also need to be able to express themselves. And when you need to be able to express yourself visually and you can't do it, you have to hire somebody else. So that basically makes us an artistic. We translate the language of art. Some of the ideas that customers come at you with are terrible, and you try to not necessarily talk them out of them, but talk them into a better one, and that never happens. Rarely happens. In fact, this last project, it wasn't my idea, but he did use a lot of my ideas in it, and there are a lot of successes, but they're only ever just the one thing, and they're never completely your thing. So you love doing it, but are you in love with it every single time? Nah, and it's always going to be somebody else's at the end. So and that one job will lead to another job that you get paid one time for. So tangent, going back to comic books and why it is that I've not been in comics, but I do know how to be an artist and how to draw. And I want to make sure that this doesn't sound whiny, because I remember having a moment where I stole myself. I was in art school, meeting some new friends, and everybody, when you're getting to know each other, they have well, this is what it was like growing up in my house. This is what my parents were like, and so on and so forth. And I remember thinking to myself at one point, I bring it's like one of those moments where you're laying on the chaise lounge and the person across from you has wire rimmed glasses. They're balding, smoking a pipe, and writing everything down in a notebook. But I grew up in the 80s, the 70s and in the 80s. Okay. So around, I want to say 80, 81. I don't know exactly. It's hard for me to tell exactly when this cliff dive happened, but at some point my household and the way I was being brought up changed from whatever my mother thought was best to whatever the wacky church she was going to thought was best. Now I am a believer. Okay. But the version of the church that my mother went to is something called Word of Faith. And I think it's important to distinguish between the two, because I've spent a lot of time. I do not consider myself to be the most well-read person, but I've been to a few studies. I've been able to delineate between, what is healthy and what is unhealthy. And so there's a difference between a good, healthy faith and somebody who just wants to take your money. The Word of Faith movement is one of those things. It was huge in the 80s. It was huge in the 80s, and there was a lot of money lost from that household, basically because my mother just basically believed everything that, she landed on a pastor that she liked, told her what to think. And before you knew it, comic books were evil. Rock and roll was evil. You definitely weren't going to be playing Dungeons and Dragons, or you would burn in hell. And I don't want to exaggerate, but when I describe it these days, it was basically like a French underground operation if I wanted to bring any comic books into the house. Even right down to those moments where you remember the weird shit that your parents might say to you, and you're like, well, what? That doesn't even make sense to me. But here's wacky. If I'm drawing, and this is like, as a kid, I have a passion for art. I was studying the human figure and trying to make my own characters, and I remember like thinking of, like, it was at 10, 11, And I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I had like distinct memories of trying to understand muscle groups then, being terrible at it, being not very good at representing them the right way, or things being out of proportion. But I always loved, whenever I went to the mall, it was always into the record stores to look at album covers, in the bookstore to look at books, not being able to bring either of them home. And then, you go to the arcade and you blow all your money on that. But I do collect these things now, and especially recently. Even at the time where my kids were growing up, I always had this feeling like I should be spending my money more responsibly than on something like comic books. And I'm sure that, residual bullshit from the house that I grew up in was there. But just to kind of give you an idea, I just pulled these off the shelf. Dan Fraga was talking about a lot of the books that he studied for his art. And I would just recently, not too long ago, came back from a trip to the Frazetta Museum and saw this. Where is it? Yeah, this book was actually sitting in a. What they do in the museum is put a bunch of the things that Frank Frazetta had in his studio. They have it in this one roped off section. It's not too big, but this book sitting on the one chair, actually two copies of it. It's open to the open to these pages, and then another one kind of like sitting there. But it was referenced again tonight on Dan Fraga's channel. I'm like, yeah, boy. I mean, this is one of the greatest. I even think that one of my other books, Atlas of the Human Body for the Artist. But just to go through science fiction and fantasy art techniques, encyclopedia of it. I mean, it's kind of a skinny encyclopedia, but there is some good stuff here, and some of the contributions are, pretty cool looking. This one's really neat, and a lot of times, I mean, honestly, I pick up some of these things, and they I don't want to say they stay on the bookshelf and they treat them like a good luck charm, but it's sort of like a whoopee. You might not have it on you all the time, but it's nice knowing that they're there. Someday I know I'm going to be using this. And the opportunities to use things like this on a bike are, you have to have, you have to have a customer come up to you and say, I want some fantasy Molly Hatchet type stuff on my bike, which rarely happens. They want flames or fire. They always want a Reaper. But again, I mean, I'm not trying to disparage the customer base. They, when they come up with an idea like that, you want to turn it into something unique, or it's just going to be a parking lot full of Reapers on bikes. And I've done that before. Tried to, let's see, I actually have what are we talking here? I know there we go. There's some Reapers I've tried to come up with. No, that's going to be. There's a big light right in the middle of his head. Not good. So my hand's kind of awkward now, but some of these photographs. But yeah, you blue fire and smoke, and there's, Reapers all over the place, and go that way, trying to make it so that it's not just your typical skull. Yeah, there's always an opportunity to. I'm only saying this because it's kind of funny that the joke keeps being brought up on a Comicsgate streams, but this is how you're supposed to do clouds in the moon. Okay, I realize I probably don't have any room to talk, because I in fact, it was at Canaan White was auctioning a piece Saturday, and I bid on it a couple of times. I really, I wanted to have it, but I also had a budget. But yeah, that's just, I mean, and you can see like this. What is this? How many pictures are in this thing? I mean, there's some of these are, pictures of the same bike, but here's an example of trying to come up with something original. I don't know if anybody will recognize this image right here, but I basically stole this from a Uriah Heep, Abominog album cover. Is one of the most crazy demonic images I've ever seen, and loved it to death. So I basically used it. What we're looking at here is a demon forging the blade of of the Grim Reaper. This whole bike, the guy said he wanted Grim Reapers all over it, and it's a bagger. There's a lot of room to take up. So I was like, well, we should probably just tell a story. Over here, if anybody recognizes this maneuver from the first Conan movie, okay, this witch over here is straightening out a snake to use as the shaft for the blade of the sickle, which was supposed to match the rims on his wheels. I know I got to get to it better. Okay, and then this here was, some of these pictures, I mean, they were like really blurry. This is old camera, old tech. There is a Frank Frazetta image that Nazareth used for one of their album covers, and I remember seeing this picture and being absolutely mesmerized by it. There's a brain in the background. And there's a man on, let's see, there's a man on the ground holding his sword up in defense. Okay, we're going to get it here. Now, let's see if this will work. If I drag this in front. Yeah, view file. Okay. Now, right here, I always remember thinking to myself, this guy's going to come down in a slashing maneuver and he's blocking it. How is he going to get his arms around these horns? You can't not have a demon without horns, and I get that. But it I always saw this and go like, he's going to bring his head down unless he just bends at the waist, in which case he's going to put his face right into that blade. Now, I'm not disparaging Frank Frazetta's work. He's my hero. I've been honored to reproduce his image on that. I don't mean like copy. I mean, yes, I airbrushed like doing a tattoo. I didn't just reprint them and sell them. It was an original work, original effort for sure, on some helmets, and I might come across those here. Then I took a page out of this, and I think this was before the movie came out, but I remember, seeing a Hellboy comic, and I was like, well, I'm going to take this horn and I'm going to chop this off, because I remembered seeing that, and I'm like, yeah, if he comes down with that hammer, he's going to clip it on that horn. We should probably cut that horn off. Yeah, and let's see. Yeah, thumbnails. Okay, this is a little bit more. So he's hammering out the blade, and this is what I'd have to come up with is, because I didn't want it to be just a thing of Reapers. I used the horns that were on this monkey demon thing on the original album cover. I turned into smokestacks. But there's a whole story that went with it. And once you come up with a story, then you can learn how to draw stuff. Liberate, that is the same Latin phrase that the captain of the ship that is haunted from Event Horizon says. Save yourself from hell. And it's just little things that I found in other, like how I was influenced in movies. Well, that's, yeah, okay. That was my version of the devil. I don't even know if that means that this stream is going to get taken down, but why not? All right, I'm moving this out of the way. Okay, anyways, nobody else is watching. I'm basically just talking to nobody anyway, so stop the screen. Okay, and I'm back. So I'm only just kind of letting you guys get to know me a little bit here. And the reason why I want to call this stream is Comic Artist Evolution is because it's an evolution for me. It's not an easy decision to make. I'm not even sure how I'm going to do it, because I still want money flowing into my business account. And the only way that I can do that right now is by keep painting some of these jobs, which I'm doing part-time. I also work full-time, and it's a decent job. The only time that I've ever wanted to not work there is when I was going to pursue doing this custom paint. And it's not like the situation that I was put in, where I was like I described before, where I had to move out of that shop, took the wind out of my sails, but it did force me to step back and think, because on one hand, it was a really unfortunate, and I haven't talked to that person since, and I don't think I'm going to talk to them again. At least I'm not going to seek them out. What happened was not the kind of thing that you do to somebody that you call your friend, and I'm just going to leave it at that. But it happened at the exact same time where our governor was telling everybody, they were still deciding, it was March, they were still deciding what businesses were vital or not. Fortunately for me, the job that I've got, I never had to leave. It never got shut. It was affected. All businesses are and have been, but not to the extent where I became expendable. So it made me, in the way that where you realize who your friends really are. But it made me, and not just that, because that was definitely an aspect of what happened, because it all happened at the same time. I mean, I was basically going to my shop from 10 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, trying to get as much stuff done, driving to my job, getting out at 1:30, and waiting until I was tired and go to bed. And I did that for a year. And I told all my clients and future customers, present customers, for a year, that I was going to be quitting my job and moving in, doing this full time, getting into knockdown, drag out fights with my wife, because I was going to be leaving a perfectly good healthcare plan, taking part of the 401k with me, and just basically sacrificing all that to pursue something that I feel I was at the top of the game, but I didn't have the right location, and I wasn't able to take the time to concentrate on marketing it to the point where I would be able to hire help and take the next step and grow. And before that happened, I was by my I'll just say it, my rent more than doubled, and it happened within a week with no warning. After I had spent an entire year telling everybody that I knew, including the guy I was renting from, that was going to happen. So it's shitty that happened, but it also happened at the same time that COVID happened. I am not for certain if I can call it divine providence, and I'm not. I'm basically just laying out the facts. I'd like to think that I'm not bitter. I believe in forgiveness, but I don't. There's no place in the Bible where it says forgive and forget. Forgetting is stupid. Forgetting is not learning from your mistakes. And anybody who can't do that, that's a failure. Anyways, if I go back and think about what I wanted to do when I was a kid, it was this stuff. Klaus Janson, penciling comics, more books. We might as well translate into that. I just got this back, Dynamic Light and Shade. I lent this book out and never got it back. I just got this back from Amazon. So I gotta really absorb that information. Also, dynamic figure drawing. These are all books where I was just listening to Dan Fraga's, which I probably well, whatever, nobody's watching, listening to it all at work, which I'm not supposed to do. Wonderful World of Comics. I mean, like I said, this is a friend of mine. Her stepfather had written and published this book a long time ago, and this is great. Got a nice thanks for buying the book. She calls me her old brother. We're the same age. Our kids play together, and I think her birthday is 2 days before. No, my birthday is 2 days before her, so she just calls me Big Brother. But there's it's just a ton of information on different ways to render water, calm water, rough water. And it's crazy. I mean, you'd think, oh, it's water. You know, how many different ways can you do that? There is stuff in that book that I didn't ever really think of. You know, it's weird. You know what I mean? It's like anybody who knows anything about Frank Frazetta knows that he collected cameras. I don't know if he was an avid photographer or not. He just had them all over the place. I would not want to say that I've got all these books and I can't draw. I mean, I'm showing you my work, so you know, I hope that it seems believable. I actually got this one from my daughter. She's actually a very good artist too. She's been making a pretty decent side hustle of doing animal portraits, and all the copies of her work that I have are in my phone, and I'm not going to try to get into a thing where, another foundations in comic book art. So it's not like I don't have the education here, whether I've been through all these books, page by page, and but this is the kind of stuff that I've been reading and working on all my life. But the challenges right now are about getting back into it, and comic artist evolution is going to be about that. Is going to be about that path. I mean, I've realized over listening to all of the streams and participating in, you know, like talking with these creators. I like the cut of their jib. I like the way they think. We have similar life philosophies when it comes to, you know, responsibility and what it means to live and exist around other people and how to treat them, how to have respect for your craft. And I mean beyond being able to meet a deadline. But when these, when I hear Ethan and Shane and Dan and all these other, John Malin and listen to them talk about what goes through their head while they're drawing, it sounds like me talking to myself or inside my head. That frustration that you get when you're trying to get the hand position to do this and it's not right. I think Charlie Snogan said something the other day it could have been word for word stuff that goes through my head every time. Never mind that watching Shane tear up a perfectly good piece of art. He doesn't like it, so there it goes. How many trees have been felled just so that they could be made into a piece of paper that I crumpled up and threw away out of disgust? Thousands. And so I feel like these are kindred spirits. And again, to the custom paint industry, almost all of the people that I've met, I've learned so much from, and they're great people. But there's it's not doing what it's supposed to for me anymore. I used to be very, very hungry when it came to learning how to be a chemist. Um, you don't just open a can of paint and start spraying it. It has to be reduced. There are temperatures to think about, airflow, whether you're putting lacquer on enamel or enamel on lacquer. Is there a hardener? If so, is it going to be a fast, slow, or really slow? Polishes and grits and all this stuff. And I'm not feeling it to the point where I'm actually telling, well, when customers call me and I accept a job, I've actually had these words coming out of my mouth. I'm planning on getting out of this industry. In fact, it was just tonight. Somebody called me about putting racing stripes across a Camaro, which is great. It's decent. It's decent money. It's decent work, and I don't not enjoy doing it. But there's a certain level of passion that I don't have that I used to. I mean, I like the artwork part of it, airbrushing things, pinstriping things, and like I'm going to put a flake lowrider paint job on this. I mean, this is one of these things I'm contending with. I have so much display material on the other side of this wall in the other part of the basement that I had to build shelves for so that I would have a place to put all this stuff. And I've been collecting it over years. I've never had any time to do any of it. And I just want to be able to knock out some good stuff, some good artwork, maybe sell it online. But I want to get into this thing that when I managed to get on Sweetcast the other night in the middle of lunch, and was talking with I know Clint was there, Charlie was there, Eric Weathers, I want to say, and I didn't get to talk to Eric that much because it was he was just like bringing people on and promote your stuff, and I was even reticent to just throw my website out there because I was afraid it might lead to more stuff that I'm trying to get away from. And I remember it was like making a joke out of it that I want to be able to produce a comic book before I die, which, nobody really knows how long anyone has, but it was kind of tongue in cheek. But it is this, it's always been this thing in the back of my head, even the entire time I've been pursuing, trying to be as good as I can at this other. I mean, okay, custom paint, great. But I've also done a lot of work at trying to be really good at Adobe Illustrator or learning what I can about vinyl application. I want to see. Now, you all can see, okay. I don't even know if you can you can't see my pointer. Okay, but I'm going to kind of go this way. This right here, these are like other art books and stuff. They're not like necessarily how to draw, but like reference. There's some Spectrum books and things like that. I have an American flag right here for reference, and because American flags on motorcycles, excuse me, it's another thing. This is vinyl right here, rolls of vinyl, and it's a transfer paper. And then over here, let's see, maybe I'll use this hand right here. Is my vinyl cutter. It's a little 24-inch vinyl cutter, and there's paint mask in there right now. It's like what I use to cut out that girl. Now this Mac right here, I have to use this because this Mac runs an old version of a Mac operating system that this how am I doing this? I can't do it backwards. That this understands. I've had it for a long time. There's my TV over there, and then some display work hanging up in the back. I can get to that someday, but like this is an Introstream, and I know this is very tangenty and it's going off in different areas, and I'm hopefully whenever I have people on, which I would love to have people on, and this has a lot to do with the comic artist evolution, because I've been out of comics, collecting comics to the point where, and this is important, so like I've been on this for 1 hour and 4 minutes and 33 seconds. This is part of what I was thinking about tonight, and where I think that this stream will have mutual benefit. It will hit 3 points. One, like every other stream, anybody that I talk to, I'd be able to promote their book. Let's see. I'm going to bring this over here for later. I'm not going to get into that now. I'm going to stay on point. I would be able to learn something, not just about the person who's writing the book and creating the book, but there is a section of comics history that has been lost to me because I was either prevented from collecting comics when I was prevented from understanding pop culture as a whole. It's a whole other thing, and I'm sure it'll come up in conversations later. It's a very, I don't want to say wacky, it's very strange story. I'm surprised that I turned out as normal as I did, whatever that means. Okay. So I'll be able to learn something about the creators in Comicsgate that has more to do with the work that they're famous for, because and this is something about the Dan Shaheen interview with EVS that I listened to that whole thing for as strangely rude it seemed. The one thing that I picked up on was he'd been out of comic books for so many years, but then seemed to know everything that was going on. Shaheen. And I can't be that guy. I think I'm be too honest with myself or something like that. I'm only as familiar with Shane Davis and EVS and John Malin and these other creators to the extent that I've been following Comicsgate for as long as I have. In fact, what was it? It was, I want to make sure I get this right. Jimmy Reyes, I believe, is the inker that I was watching. I think he's page one. Some of this stuff is like the name dropping is already bad with me. So if I remember any of these people correctly, consider it in honor that I'm trying to get my brain to work this hard. And I was listening to, I think it was page one, Jimmy Reyes today. But the first time I listened to him, he was talking about David Finch. And everybody started talking about David Finch the way that I would talk about my favorites. My favorite pen and ink pencil and ink combination was always Alan Davis and Paul Neary when he did Excalibur. I also liked, John Byrne, just like everybody else, and Frank Frazetta is always going to be the Godfather. But they talked about David Finch to the extent where it's like I had to go out the next day to the comic shop that I was already in that area, and I went over and spent money specifically looking for David Finch work. And I got brought home two things. I brought home Forever Evil and Breakout, the Avengers Breakout book. And then I started watching the David Finch stream, and even he was saying things. It was the stream, and I've watched it twice. Well, I watched it once all the way through, and then I keep referencing it here and there, about drawing folds in clothing and, loose folds and tight folds. Even he was saying things that I had said to myself that it made it sound like I was talking to myself when I draw. And I haven't had, I don't want to make it sound, it's not overly dramatic, but I haven't ever experienced a connection with people online, but like you don't even know that it's happening, but it's where you feel like you think like these people, and in more ways than one. Like I said, one of the things that I really like about the Comicsgate movement has just knowing that there are people out there who share a similar talent and who think the same way. but there's something going on where these creators have been in an industry that I always thought I would be in, and ended up taking a different direction because I picked up an airbrush and fell in love with it, and ended up painting T-shirts, and it just I think I described it the other day on Sweetcast, where it was basically like watching the opening credits to Forrest Gump, where it just went where it went, and I was happy to follow it, but it didn't seem like there was within the custom paint, there was like, I need to learn how to do this, and then I need to learn how to do this, and I want to be complete within this industry. But it's not the industry where, if I had made that kind of a conscious choice earlier on, I would have been in comic books. But it's always been, I've always looked at it as a bigger challenge because of the way things need to be composed. And here's something else. There's another reason why getting into comic books and simultaneously getting away from custom paint, beyond the fact that there's not time to do everything. The people that you work with in custom paint are either in auto body, and you're learning the auto body portion, the sanding, the priming, the chemistry of it, the tools that, I don't want to go on and on, but there's that section. There's the airbrush, which is, you are dealing with other, you're at least in that respect, you're dealing with other artists. But even there, your customer is not they're not as critical of your work. And I can't believe I'm saying that I actually might look forward to something like this, but I know that there are people out there that read comics that know more of what they're talking about when it comes to art than the customer base that's in custom paint. And I think this is one of the one of the attractions that I had to custom paint, which is not a good, it's not a good reason, but I did realize it like years ago. I was working with another guy I was partnered up with before this whole mess with this this other shop that I had. And what happens when you turn over a piece of custom paint to your customer? You get the fenders and the tanks back on the bike, and you roll it out, and they're just blown away. And I always remember this other guy. He was younger than me. He would just eat up all the attaboys and stuff. And I wanted to tell him not to burst his bubble, because he wasn't a bad artist. He knew how to do a couple of things really well. And I've seen him grow since then. We're still friends, into a more complete painter. But I had said to him, I go, try not to let the compliments you get from your customer, don't let those fill your head. These aren't people, and this isn't a dig, it's just the truth. These aren't people who are going to art galleries thinking about color, thinking about composition, and scratching their chin and wondering what it all means. You're giving them what they want. They looked it up, you served it, and there it is. So they know what they want, but when it comes to the business of art, they don't know what they're talking about. They know what they like, and that's where it stops. When you're dealing with a group like the Comicsgate creators, you're dealing with professionals. When I listened to, I was on Fraga's stream tonight, and then what was it? There was one a couple of nights ago. He's been doing it every day. It's Inktober, so there's tons of art happening. They're talking about art on a much deeper level, and it's something that I can really sink my brain into. And I need to get away from this other industry, because I don't have my brain and my heart aren't as hungry for that as it is for this. And it goes down to writing a story. I can say this, the best times that I've ever had painting a bike was when there was a story involved. I'm going to end up opening iPhoto again. Where is it? I got way too many icons on this thing. Every time I install a piece of software, it goes into the dock and it stays there, and they all get lost. I'm going to go to these go to these baggers. Where is it? Oh, it's in clowns. I'm sorry. Okay. Share screen. And application window is better. Is application window better? Does that make it? Well, maybe it's the same thing. Okay. So wherever I move it, it doesn't matter. It's just going to be there. Okay, let's see. Sorry, guys. I'm getting used to this thing. Is this where I can just move this over here? Here. Nope. Nope. All right. Okay. Crazy clowns. Guy wants crazy clowns on his bike. And so what happens? I say, just give me crazy clowns on the bike. Well, I'm not going to litter it with faces. Otherwise, it's going to end up looking like that last one. And there's only so much of that you can do before it's just, that green Jester bike had a point to it. And they weren't all like full colored. So you can understand the difference between a background. My point is storytelling. Somebody says I want a bunch of crap on my bike, and you're like, the only way that I can fit that on there is if I can think of some way, for some reason, for it to be there. This is what I want to do. There we go. And so what I came up with was this, the story of what happens when the clowns. Let's see if I can get to the beginning, because it goes from the front to the back. What happens if the clowns take over the circus? Well, what you end up with is a tunnel of lust and people going into this sinister ride on a river of acid. You can see this one little person down there is my pointer showing up? No. I think I need to point this out. Share screen, this, here. And now you can see the pointer. Yeah, this little guy dissolving in this river of acid. Of course, there's no, and now you can see here, there's a flammable liquid coming out of the little squirty flower. And these are all, originally drawn. Like I illustrated this entire bike. Okay. What happens when the crazy clowns take over the circus? Carnival of Souls. This was right around whenever that whole accident with Siegfried and Roy happened. Siegfried and Roy, not Siegfried and Roy. Spirits in the ticket box, and the lever broken off of the roller coaster. So there's a whole story that went to this whole thing, and yeah. Those are the campaigns I'm into. It's a story I'm writing. Stop sharing. I got to get better at this. I'm going to end up doxing somebody by accident. If anybody ever ends up watching this thing, God, I don't even know if that bike still exists. That was so many years ago. There's no story. That doesn't hardly ever happen. Whether there's a story from one end of the bike to the other, or you're doing some sort of a good wizards on one side, evil wizards on the other side. The best time I've ever had painting a bike is when I was able to tell a story with it. It's not a long story, it takes a while to do because there's all this other work involved in it, but it's not a very long story. And I'm usually pulling things from, the Grim Reaper bike had influences from a Dio album cover that I'd seen. The hell sequence from Black Hole, Disney's Black Hole, at the very end there. And I'm not saying anything. Okay, now let's also say that there's there's a lot of for me to learn, and I've been having such a good time getting to know these people. I I just don't want that to stop. Um, so mutually beneficial. I better get better at this. I keep coming around to this point and then spiraling out. It's like this crazy highway. It's like trying to drive around Atlanta. Um, I'll be able to pick up on some things. I'm sure I'll be able to learn, but I want to be able to learn about the work that I've been missing out on. When I was collecting comics, the the books that I did get and did bring into the house under the dark of night, I got the official handbook of the Marvel Universe. I think I got 10 issues. For some reason, all of the runs that I have are like 1 through 9 or 1 through 10. And the reason I did that is because I thought that I was getting the most informational bang for the buck. If I wasn't going to be able to collect comic books without somebody telling me that I was going to end up possessed by the devil, then at least I can get one that when I did pull it out and read it, I was getting the whole story right up until that point on every character. Um, I did. And, I bagged and boarded what I could or bagged what I could. I didn't have a long box. It was seriously, guys, it was a hide things in the attic crawl space up in where my closet door is. So, in case the room got searched, which nobody will like search the room or anything like that, but there would be points where there was, I remember having a copy of Heroes Unlimited. I wonder if that still exists. It was a role playing game, which I knew that I was never going to be able to go and play. Yep, Heroes Unlimited. Wikipedia. Yeah, it's in Wikipedia. I don't know. Do they actually still make this thing? Because that would be kind of fun to do. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I had an earlier version of this. And it was made by Palladium Books. This is the cool thing is the things that I was always restricted from doing, I did not restrict my kids from doing. They were allowed to listen to music. They were allowed to. I mean, of course, like within reason. I'm not going to like just go way off the handle and let them do anything that they want. I'm not some progressive idiot parent. But this stuff here, the first edition of this, I remember seeing it. I can't remember. No, if it was in a comic book. This thing right here got torn up in front of me. Okay, because it got torn up in front of me. Stop. All right, it got torn up in front of me because you played it like Dungeons and Dragons. It was the same kind of gameplay, and I couldn't even get my mom to understand the difference. Like, no one's casting spells. I mean, maybe, who knows? I didn't even know how to. There wasn't even anybody to play with. But it was very restrictive that way. So I remember having a conversation with the guy that owned the comic book shop. It was Queen City Comics in Buffalo, and the guy that owned the shop. It's not like I didn't try. Okay, I'm not saying that it was like barbed wire around the house, and I was living with Carrie's mom. Although I did use that comparison a couple times just to get people to understand in a short amount of time exactly what I was dealing with. I got fruit flies. He said, I laid this shit out. Like, I want to be able to buy stuff from your store, but I can't because it's all just going to get thrown away if it ever gets found and blah, 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 blah. So, but I remember him saying, he goes, well, how old are you? I'm like, well, it's 16, just started driving. And I mean, every single thing that I did where it was like, okay, I'm a little bit more grown up, I'm going to go do this and drive. That's one step closer to getting out. But he said that, he goes, well, when you're 18, you can just like move out. I was like, yeah, you know what? That's a good plan. And that is actually exactly what I did. My brother and I graduated at the same time. I've got a twin. Mom and sister I lost my father at a young age, so there was no, buddy there to really stop this madness. But mom and sister go to see my brother graduate high school. And when they came back, I was gone. And I got as much stuff as I could fit in my buddy's Datsun 310. And I moved into the basement of his house was our apartment. It was set up like a living area. It was a multi-generational household. So that's where his parents lived when they were our age and younger and starting a family. So there was like a place we had to clean it all up. I mean, it was full of trash and a bunch of other stuff, but that was like the deal. You can clean it up, pay this much. And it was a little bit of an awkward living situation, but I was willing to do anything to get out. And I did. And what happens when you get out and you're that young is that you work, you make money, and I called it the slingshot effect, which was, you get held back and I got this right. You get held back and held back and held back for so long that when you finally are let go, you go way farther into like the party scene and things like that. Now, I didn't get into any great deal of trouble, but I did not concentrate. I mean, I concentrated on my art, but I didn't concentrate on like collecting and staying with comic books. I was like 18. I was living on my own. My rent wasn't hugely high, so I had money to go and do other things that young kids do. You're always told that you couldn't. I never went to a rock and roll concert, so I could go and do that. But I did work in a movie theater. I thought that was cool. For a while, and I did a bunch of different jobs until I finally I moved out of there. I had a girlfriend that we lived together for a couple of years, and then we split, and I moved down to Pittsburgh to go to art school. And it was always the same situation. It was don't have a lot of money. I got away from collecting comics. I was aware that they were there. I mean, I would grab some every once in a while and just kind of like see what was going on, but I wasn't into it to the point where I knew who was drawing what, who was writing what, here and there, and I would get into it. But I was always concentrating on my own airbrush work and then getting into the custom paint thing and learning more about, how to do that. And it took up a great deal of my brain power. So I'm only saying that to not make excuses, but just explain how I ended up here. And so I want to create a book. And the other thing too, Tangent Dave, hashtag tangents ahead. Oh my God, if I listen to this, and if I'm pounding the desk, I just realized the way that I have this whole thing set up is I have these on, but I cannot monitor myself without making my voice just go away. I have these on out of habit. So I feel like I've been pounding the desk and making a whole bunch of unnecessary noise. If I go back and listen to this thing for an hour and a half, I've been going on. But it's important. It's important for me to get this out and start doing this. I want to get used to it. I want to get better at it. And we learn by doing. Movie quotes. So come back to the point. part about not doing comics also, I believe, had to do with there's a sense of intimidation. The creators that I'm following now through Comicsgate, they all have the stories about, who you met for the first, going to comic book conventions. My God, if that ever happened, my mother's head would have started spinning around. I hate coming back to that, but it's a factor. I'm not blaming anybody. It's just one of those things where you realize that it's part of what happened. It sent you on a certain path, and coming back to where I think I wanted to be when I was a kid is important. Again, before I die, I mean, look at this. Seriously. I know I've got the talent. I just need to, learn the things that I need to learn, get used to to a new flow, to a new concept, a new industry, a new habit, and make this shit happen, and get selfish is what I've been basically getting at. I want to get selfish with my own talent. I'm not talking about being greedy and trying to make as much money as possible, because I'm not really worried about that. I just want to get good at this thing that I always wanted to do, but didn't know if I had the chops. The artists and the creators that are in Comicsgate, they are just a great resource for being able to point out where your weaknesses are in your art in its purest form. There's nothing else to consider as far as the tools, not the chemicals that you're using, the paint system that you're using, the fan speeds, and all this other junk. It's just the drawing. The figure, the backgrounds, and everything that happens right in front of you. And it happens, I've said this one before, and it happens on a flat surface, not on something round. And there was something else. Now it's escaping me. I do this to myself all the time. I can't wait to get people on here so that they can rein me in, and I'll be able to hear what's going on. I don't want to keep slapping the desk like that, because I know the microphone's picking it up, and whatever. It's a first shot, and it's just going to have to be an understandable. Just going to have to be a thing that happens. So. Comics, artist, evolution. I want to do this stream so that I can promote, I can track my progress, meet these creators and get to know them on a more personal level, and learn. It's just a weird feeling that it's just freaking strange to trip over this movement and find out that's what it was. Being intimidated, and these people have gotten into the comic book industry, gotten around all of their fears, gotten around their well, maybe not all their frustrations. I'm sure there's more of those, but got through that sense of intimidation, met these different personalities, the ones that helped him out, the ones that are really cool, the ones that are total bricks. And the industry has, and the industry is basically and treated them like crap. But now there's this thing where if I'm going to learn something about producing comics, I would be learning from people who have already been there and done that. But there's none of the political crap that anybody else had to put up with. Yes, there's more work involved as far as marketing and shipping things out and dealing with printers and stuff like that. And I don't think that it's beyond my capability to be able to do those things too. I've had other people produce tools for me in my industry that I sell to other people that are in my industry. And I'll probably keep doing that because there's too much of an investment in time and energy to create a gold leaf spinner or a grid that helps keep your pinstripe designs and symmetry and all that stuff. There's no reason to not sell that. It's just like, put it in an envelope, send it out, and collect your money. And learn about marketing and learn so much and be my own guinea pig for the benefit of other people who don't know if they can do this or not. Like the art, it's not where I want it to be. I know that I can get there. I've drawn before. I do drawing, and I was showing it to you earlier, so I know that I can draw. It's a matter of learning how to maybe write and get comfortable with that, or hire a writer, which I've been looking into. And photos, okay. I was showing this to my brother, and this is basically some of the stuff that where I'm at. Here, it's my one of my characters, the one that I would be concentrating on. He does not call himself Meat Hook. Other people will be. And it's based on he's going to be an amalgam of things that I've read, just like everybody else has their influences. I have mine, and put a spin on it that has a lot to do with the things that I've seen other people do and learned and watch them do, as far as like working on cars and working on bikes, and the concept behind this. This is what we're looking at right here is basically my lovely wife got me something called a comic sketchbook. These are not 11 by 17. It's smaller format, but it's just something to lay your ideas out. And all these panels, they're in here. They're pre-sized. And I was just playing around with some ideas. What if there was a Meat Hook mobile or whatever, and working on what the character is going to look like. There's a hockey helmet I was working on. That just left here yesterday, so already got paid for that. But yeah, working on some hands and stuff, and trying to get my get comfortable with my drawing and sequential storytelling, composition of panels, and things like that. But the story is basically the concept is, what if Batman wasn't a billionaire and he had to make his own weapons, make his persona, and try to scare people, try to scare the grown-ups, but not scare the kids. And what it boils down to is, before I go any further, I just want to kind of go through this. Double click, like a freaking old person. Double click on a link. I'm just kind of showing you guys here. These are the books that I've backed, these are the ones that I've backed. And of course, Richard Meyer, your boy Zach, is going to come up first. And why not? This fool is the guy that got me started in this stuff in the first place. It was like one video led to the next video, led to the next video. And all of a sudden I'm learning about what's going on in the comic industry and the craziness that's happening in there. Oh man, this is a 2008 Power Mac. I've got 4 hard drives in this thing. It is not the fastest thing in the world. I just want to go through the creators that have caught my eye, either visually or because they are, I just, I love the way that they present their stuff so well. I was just thinking about this tonight on a personal level, as far as like when I listened to the Shane Davis, was it Talking and Drawing? Is there anybody who gives you more inside information? Like, so it's like being in the break room that you were, that at work at a comic book studio, and learning stuff that you never thought that you would want to know, and never thought that you. I mean, it's almost like being privy to information that you should have earned by working in the industry. And me not having worked in the industry, I feel privileged to get that information. But the cool thing of the style of that stream, and I know I'm going to trip over my tongue and call it a podcast when it's not. Is the way that Shane talks is it's like low a lot of times, unless he's on a spiral, and even then it doesn't get like I might get if I was upset, get really animated and whatever. But the cadence of his speech, it's low and calming, and then Yanzi talks, and she's got that killer accent, and it's all like machine gun and rapid, and it's like hot and cold and black and white, and the two of them complement themselves, just audibly complement themselves, and I love listening to the back and forth. It's really something else, and it's one of those things that I'm sure they were never thinking to themselves, hey, if we do this, we're going to sound like this, and it's going to have this effect, and people are just going to notice it. And maybe it's just me, picking up on stuff that is obvious to everybody else, and I feel like I need to mention it. Everybody knows about that one. I'm just basically putting links to these in the chat since nobody's in there. Like, I realize that I'm talking to myself, and that's cool, and that's fine. But this is right now. I'm just basically putting this stuff in the chat and treating it like this is my Indiegogo history. And there is one book that I picked up off of a Kickstarter, and it was your boy Zach. I mean, he didn't like quote talk me into it. But I picked up Jeff Rugg's Octobriana because it had a lot to do with, well, two things: the blacklight copy of Octobriana, and I do want to do a review of this book, but I have something special in mind. There was a year that I moved to Key West in 95, 96. Based on the convoluted notion that I would open up an airbrush t-shirt shop, know exactly what it was I was doing, and just become a smashing success, which isn't ever the way that it works. There's always work involved. I was down there for a year. Well, what was I on page 2? Legendary. Yeah. Got Wenger's book. Now, Graveyard Shift, Volume 3. I managed to back that twice. I know I plan on sending that to somebody, but that's the only book that I backed twice. This one, I cannot wait for this. This one's going to be awesome. This art is so fluid and organic, and it has so much movement to it. Ironically, digital, that it would look so organic. Yeah, and this one, I think we're moving into stuff that I've already got. I grabbed Super Harem. Was it? Yeah, In Demand. I grabbed Super Harem because Um, I mean, I had heard Wanger talking about it. Of course, was promoting his book for a while. And usually I'm listening to these things. Like I said, I'm at work. I'm not like looking at the screen, so I didn't like run to my phone and go to Indiegogo and look at what it says. I had to wait for him to say this. Any woman he has sex with gains superhuman abilities, and that concept was so original to me. Um, I bought that book just based on that. I didn't care about the art. I didn't care about the lettering or any of that stuff. Yeah, this is going to be fun when this comes in. And how impressive is it that your boy Zach is working with was this Chuck Dixon, Graham Nolan, who Bills fan, go Bills, and Sylvester Stallone. Man, that's impressive. I don't know every bit of history about your boy Zach. I only know that he was in the military as a sergeant. He did, I want to say, two. I cannot remember how many tours in the quote the sandbox. Yeah, and I got Wrecked Planet came in. No, not. I mean, it didn't come in. I got the first Cyber Frog, Blood Honey. And you know what? I had not read comics in long enough to where opening it up and reading it. I was like, I have to read other comic books because it seemed like the way that these stories that the story went seemed so compact to me. Like he was trying to fit so much information in a smallish. I mean, it's a lot of pages, but it seemed like he was trying to convey so much information in one book. I was like, well, I'm not going to go ahead and say that I don't like the writing because it's like my first exposure in such a long time. It's it could be me. But yeah, Ethan Van Sciver, he's the Rush Limbaugh of Comicsgate. There's other people that were doing radio before Rush, but he's the guy that turned talk radio into what it is today. And I know that there were other guys that were doing crowdfunding, and I don't think that I don't think that I'm out of place saying that. For as late to the game as I am, and for the amount of time that I've spent away from this medium, it just seems like that. It's Uncle Lee, the Rush Limbaugh of Comicsgate. Yeah, and this God King and Iron Sights were the first couple I got. Now I'm going to have to get on to eBay and look for what was the first Jawbreakers book. Oh, the name is escaping me right now. Yeah, this is the script I'm working. I actually had talked to Vonster about writing, and he turned me on to this piece of software that I do dig, but it is. I was kind of hoping to find something that is. I'm still using the free version right now. I don't know if I'm going to stick with it for sure. I'm kind of looking for something that I can use on my phone and on the computer. The problem is, though, with the computer that I have, I would have to get updated and then updated to the point where I can use the newest version of Mac OS in order to get everything to sync up with each other. So I don't know if I really like how easy it is. And the other thing too is like when I'm writing, I can sit down in front of that, put on some music and go to town and like set time aside. If I've got ideas that I can jot down on the phone or in a notepad and then come back to it later. But I don't know that I don't know that it's a good writing habit to just pick something up and start writing and then sync it up with something else later on and do it in fits and chunks. But like to sit in front of the machine and purposefully write and not write by accident. I feel like maybe as bad as I am at staying on point, that's just going to add fuel to that wacky, crazy tangent fire. So yes, this is comic artist evolution. I think I'm still learning about how to organize this stuff in YouTube. I know I have my identity crisis channel. I've got some playlist for things that I do with paint work and custom paint. I have a channel for things that I want to incorporate into my book. I have a playlist rather for my book, and I guess this would organize itself into streams. So the Fledgling episode, we're like 10 minutes away from talking for 2 hours. I hope that this hasn't been a complete and total aggravation of trying to listen to somebody desperately stay on point. I had this epiphany, sounds really grand, but I had this idea about what the channel should be, and I would like to try. I'm very interested to see if the concept grabs a hold. The more the channel grows, the more it'll be worth, obviously, like coming on, reaching out to potential backers potential backers for their Indiegogo campaign. Talk to them about their career, because the thing that I want to learn, the thing that I want to learn about, finally getting to it. Geez. This stuff was just in my head, okay? It was in my head. I came home. I sat down in front of this thing and just started vomiting. I said that it was going to start at 2:15. Then I went and collected some books that I could hold up, almost as if I'm maybe holding up a diploma. Like, yeah, I draw too, blah blah blah. But try to explain why I'm in the position that I'm in, and what I want to do with this unique position, because I think that where I started and where I'm ending up can help benefit myself, of course, the creators, of course. I want to learn more about them. So, for instance, if I pick a name out of a hat, and I say, one of these days I can have John Malin on and talk to John Malin, I want to talk to him about his career in comics so that I can learn about it. I don't know that there are channels that are doing that right now, because all of the creators in Comicsgate already know each other. They're already familiar with what their past work is. Now, on one hand, it's not that could lead to of course, it's a promotional material. I've done all this work. I'm a creator that's got I've got my chops. This is my story. This is the catalog of work that I've got. And the other thing is this. I want to know what the catalog of work is so that I can go seek it out at my local comic shop. Now, I don't know that there are a ton of people out there that are like me, that are just getting into comics for the first time, or like me, they're getting into comics after a long time. And that these are the artists who are striking out on their own. But if the comic book industry is going to be treating the way that Hollywood is treating movie theaters, the way the comic book industry is trying to treat treating the comic book retailers, and there's somebody like myself who's not only willing to spend money on Indiegogo projects, which are a great value, but they are, in comparison to buying floppies full of advertisements in a comic book store. I believe it's value for value. I believe it's worth it. I want to make sure I get that out there. I mean, I'm looking at the chat, and although there's nobody in it, I'm just going through this. These are all the books that I backed. Okay, so clearly I believe in this thing. I believe that I can do this thing, but I also believe that if I'm able to seek out those past works in my local comic book shop, then I can, have that conversation with my local store and turn him on to this. Shane Davis had said there is a secret tier for Starlight Cats where he wants to be able to sell and to benefit comic book shops. Then I want to be able to take this information and what Comicsgate is doing and take it to my local comic book shop. Now, the guy there is not necessarily on board. I still think that he is more of a loyalist to the what would you call it, the tried and true, or the big two. And it's a great place. Pittsburgh Comics is a great store. I love going in there. I have not gone in there enough. I plan on going in there more in the future because I'm in a different financial situation now, with some of my kids grown and moved out, than I was when they were here. You would not believe the amount of money, like when they say the kids cost a lot. Kids are expensive. Yes, they are. It's amazing the amount of money that you realize that you've been spending on your kids when they start supporting themselves and you're not supporting them. Holy crap. And now it's wanting to get back into doing this thing that I wanted to do when I was a kid. Call it a midlife crisis or whatever, I don't care. But I think the benefit is a not just mutual benefit between somebody that I might have on the show. And believe me, it's a lot easier to stay on point when I'm talking to somebody else. Trust me, it is. Benefit the guest. I can learn about it myself. And the people who listen to this stream who are new to comics they'll know more than me, or not as much as me, and learn right along with me. So then to also, it'd be like, for instance, use the same example. John, come on the show. Let's talk. I want to know, what was it that you were working on that I should have been paying attention to the entire time? And then, give me some homework. Is there a book out there that you're especially proud of? Is there a book out there that maybe I've got it? I don't know. I'm dealing with 1.5 long boxes. I just picked up another long box because, see it right down there? My Comicsgate stuff is in there. Look at all this empty space. And I plan on filling that up. And my other box, I had it cataloged. I had it cataloged in Evernote, and something happened to that note. It was my need it, got it list. And I was planning on going into the comic book shop and filling up my empty spaces and going on the hunt and trying to keep whole collections together. But I want to be able to go into the comic book shop with homework. What's your favorite stuff? What's something that you always, and then eventually, and even if, somebody comes on the stream and, gives me something that I should go out and get, or a diamond in the rough or whatever, that I've already got, then there's something to talk about. So, I hope, I'm hitting the desk again. I hope that this was interesting enough to follow. Like I said, I plan on improving. There's, I think, plenty of stuff that we can learn from each other. I'm looking forward to getting better at this. I'm looking forward to doing it again, finding a schedule. If I pop on again, maybe at night, I know that I'll probably be putting something like this up that people can watch later. Right now, this is my schedule. I might have some days free. I might have some weekends free, but I'm definitely going to try to get something that is stable and steady so that I can get this practice down, so that I can, get some advice, and who knows, maybe even give some. But Comic Artist Evolution, CAE from Identity Crisis Design, CAE from ICD, and this is DAVE, and I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for listening, for those that do.